So an autopsy that will be conducted today on a body found at Bridgerton National Forest Sunday. That body is believed to be that of missing Long Island woman Gabby Petito.
So her boyfriend remains a person of interest in her disappearance, but he can't be found by the police. Joining us now with more on this evolving investigation, defense attorney, former prosecutor Arthur Aidala. Nice to have you back on Good Day New York.
Hi, good morning, everyone.
So Arthur, how is it possible the fiance, he was always a person of interest, and yet he disappears? The house that he lived in with his parents, now a crime scene. Explain this to us.
Well, I really don't have an explanation as to how he slipped away through the night. And by the way, they did execute a search warrant, and inside the search warrant, in the verbiage of the search warrant, he's described as a suspect to the judge because they found a hard drive that they believe contains some computer information that they asked the judge to allow them to look into, and they described Brian Laundrie as a suspect in this matter. You know, Bianca, I was looking at the timeline, and you know, it's very clear that she was very close to her mom, and they spoke often. And it's clear that the mom knew about the August the 12th incident, and then she doesn't hear from her daughter, who she used to hear from regularly, directly or via the YouTube video they were doing for over 2 weeks. And then in that 2-week mark, the mom gets this weird text saying, can you help me get in touch with Stan? I'm either getting his voicemail or missed call. Stan's her grandfather. And her mom, Nicole, says she never called him Stan. So she thought that was very odd. And then the mom gets another text. Nicole gets another text on August the 30th, 3 days later. That just says no service in Yosemite, and that's the last contact they have. And the question I just have is, there's no missing persons report given to the Suffolk County Suffolk County Police until September 11th. So the mom's last big communication with her was August the 12th. And it's basically a month later until the missing persons report is filed. Some of the questions I have is, did they call Brian? How many times did they call Brian? Yeah. Did they call, did anyone call the cell phone company? We know her cell phone was turned off about September 1st, which is approximately when Brian got back to Florida. And in a little bit of breaking news, one of her friends came forward, a woman by the name of Rose Davis, and said she knew the couple and that there was a lot of control issues by Brian over Gabby, to the point where Gabby didn't have a lot of friends in her new home in Florida because he was very jealous. So there are a lot of pieces of the puzzle that need to be put together, but the biggest one is what was said a minute ago, is what are the results of the autopsy report.
And the other thing, Arthur, you know, we're hearing now new information on when the police pulled over this couple in Utah. Originally, we saw the police report. She was the suspect. He was the victim. Now we hear from another person that the person who actually called in the police report said he saw Brian, you know, touching her inappropriately, hitting her or slapping her. And maybe she was afraid. And maybe she was afraid when police called her because, you know, what would happen after police walked away with her fiance?
There was definitely a 911 call that indicates the male is attacking the female. Yeah. However, the police officers, when they arrived, they noted that the male had scratches and marks on his face. So they wrote it up that he was the one who was being attacked. But, you know, when you look at that video, and my heart breaks for her parents and her step-parents, because you could just see she's in tremendous anguish. And the mother said that as she was talking to her daughter along the trip, that there was a lot of anxiety being built up and a lot of basically fighting between the two of them. But your original question, Rosanna, is where is Brian Laundrie? Boy, oh boy, that beats the heck out of me, because even though they don't have a probable cause to arrest him at this point, there's just not enough evidence. That doesn't mean you don't put a cop car or two right in front of his house where at one point you knew where he was with his parents, and follow everywhere he goes in a public space.
Now, the autopsy of the body found that's believed to be Gabby Petito's, that's going to be done today. What could the outcome be? If it's A, then it's, you know, B. Like, what are we hoping to see with this?
Well, you know, look, let's just say there's something obvious, that there is some sort of an obvious wound, a stab wound, a bullet wound. You know, you look at things like under her fingernails. Is Brian's DNA under her fingernails? The identification here is not going to be an issue. In other words, if her DNA is found in the van, well, that was her van. But if his DNA is found under her fingernails or any of his fibers, well, that shows that there was some sort of a struggle. But they're also going to do toxicology. Are there drugs in her system? Yeah. They're going to see, did he leave her out in the cold? And did she freeze to death in the middle of the night? Did she fall and hit her head? There's so many things that a forensic examination is going to uncover that I think will lead to many of the answers here.
Speaking of leading to some answers, how likely is it that you think we're going to find Brian Laundrie alive after, you know, these so many days that he's gone missing?
Well, obviously, we all hope that another human being is alive. I think the two choices here are he found a way to end his life, if that's what he chose to do, or he found his way to get on a boat somewhere and get out of the United States of America, knowing that a probable, and you know, I don't know, but again, I think by the end of the day, we'll have a better idea. But he is, as they said, written in the search warrant, he is called the suspect. So therefore, all eyes are focused on him, and he's a young person. And obviously, Gabby's disappearance. Look, it became a nation case. It became an international case. You know, it's a big deal, and it was very much fueled by social media that she was found the way she was, because people saw the white van, they examined their own video, they saw where she was, where the van was, they see her flip-flop on the floor and a telephone on the floor towards the back of the van, very close to where she was located, and one would indicate the flip-flop on the floor, one flip-flop and one cell phone on the floor would indicate some type of a struggle. Yeah. You know, people don't usually leave their shoes and their phone on the side of the road. A lot of questions, I believe, will be answered in the coming hours.
Thank you, Arthur Aidala. If people need you, where can they find you?
Well, they're not going to find me on the segment that you're doing about the hair and the person who does
Chris Appleton, you will not be there.
Very useful.
You didn't want a long ponytail?
Just, well, I don't think that's my look. Just look me up, Rosanna. I'm always here to help everyone in New York City. You know I love this city so much.
All right. Arthur, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.